What if the moment that seemed the tiniest, most mundane gesture could reveal everything about a relationship? What if the world's most scrutinized couple, Prince Harry and Meghan Markle, at the pinnacle of public fascination, were hiding tensions so subtle that only a camera lens and a keen observer could catch them? Imagine the scene. The glittering snow of Utah, flashing cameras, Hollywood elites sipping champagne, and right in the center of it all, the Duke and Duchess of Sussex, making their first official appearance at the Sundance Film Festival to celebrate the premiere of their documentary, Cookie Queens, a documentary that promised laughter, creativity, and stories of triumph. But as the crowd would soon notice, what unfolded on the red carpet told a story far more complicated than anyone expected. But before we continue, please subscribe and turn on the notification bell for updates. From the very first moment Harry and Meghan stepped onto the snow-dusted carpet, there was an electric tension. You could feel it, even through a screen. Harry, usually a master of controlled royal composure, froze for a fraction of a second. A pause so subtle it could be missed by the untrained eye. Meghan smiled, radiating her usual poised charm, but the cameras caught something peculiar. A hesitation, a tiny step back. A brief glance that lasted longer than socially polite. A micro-expression that hinted at discomfort, not just from the cold, but from something far more intimate. And then it happened. The moment that would become the talk of social media, the subject of endless speculation, the gifs, memes, and headlines. Harry refused to hug Meghan. Not in anger, not in drama, but in a moment of subtle, almost imperceptible reaction. Prompted, insiders suggest, by noticing sweat stains on Meghan's outfit. A human moment, trivial to some, but explosive when magnified under the scrutiny of millions. It's a tiny detail, yet, in the world of celebrity royalty, a detail can become a headline. Why does this matter now? Because Cookie Queens isn't just a documentary. It's a statement. It's the couple's attempt to craft a narrative of creativity, empowerment, and connection. And the irony? The red carpet debut, a moment meant to celebrate their work, turned into a masterclass in unintended storytelling. Every photographer, every onlooker, every fan on social media instantly seized upon that micro moment. And once the internet gets hold of a narrative, it rarely lets go. But let's rewind for a moment. What does it take for a couple like Harry and Meghan to walk into a room filled with flashing cameras and expect anything close to privacy? The stakes are enormous. Every movement analyzed, every glance dissected, every smile debated. And in the midst of that chaos, the simplest human reaction, a subtle recoil, a micro-avoidance, a hesitation before a hug, can speak louder than any press release. Inside, the festival was a whirlwind. Glittering lights, velvet ropes, and an air of anticipation so thick you could cut it with a knife. The documentary's premiere was set to be the highlight of the evening. Celebrities mingled, media crews shuffled equipment, and fans lined the streets outside, hoping for a glimpse of royalty walking among Hollywood elite. But backstage, things were already tense. Harry's advisors noticed the smallest cues, his body language telling a story even before he spoke. Meghan, acutely aware of her appearance under the unforgiving spotlight, was managing more than just nerves. She was managing optics, sweat stains, wardrobe choices, and the pressure to maintain composure in front of a global audience added layers of stress most people can hardly imagine. And here's the kicker. The cameras didn't lie. They captured everything from the first step onto the red carpet, to the briefest hesitation before Harry moved, to the way Meghan's smile faltered for just a fraction of a second. It was a moment that seemed almost too small to matter. But when you're a royal under 24-hour global scrutiny, the tiniest detail becomes a seismic event. Social media exploded within minutes. Memes were born, hot takes published, and fan theories proliferated. Some speculated that Harry was upset. Others said he was just being cautious. But insiders whispered something far more human. He noticed the sweat. He recoiled slightly, not in judgment, but instinctively, in a moment of protective discomfort. And the story doesn't end there. Because while the public only saw the frozen, tense red carpet interaction, the backstage dynamics told a more complex story. Whispered conversations, subtle adjustments of posture, and quiet exchanges hinted at stress, anticipation, and unspoken frustrations. Every person involved, the PR teams, the documentary crew, even the festival staff, could sense the tension in the air, and that tension, invisible to the untrained eye, would later ignite a media firestorm. Think about it. How often do we ignore the small human moments in high-pressure situations? A handshake that feels cold, a smile that seems forced, a step back that goes unnoticed. And yet, in this context, every action was magnified, dissected, and analyzed. The moment Harry avoided the hug became more than just a red carpet anecdote. It became a narrative about authenticity, perception, and human vulnerability. But let's step into the crowd for a second. Fans whispered, photographers angled for the perfect shot, and reporters scribbled furiously. What's happening here? One might have wondered, is there tension? Are they okay? The questions multiplied as the footage circulated online. By the time the premiere began, the social media landscape was already buzzing. Screenshots, GIFs, speculation threads, and commentary poured in. Every follower, fan, and critic became an analyst. And then came the twist, because what the cameras didn't immediately reveal, and what the public would only piece together hours later, was the full context of that moment. Sweat, stress, and human reaction collided with centuries of royal expectation and media scrutiny. The result? A microdrama that captured the essence of living life in a fishbowl. And while it may seem trivial, this tiny moment offered a rare glimpse into the private pressures that shape public personas, the fine line between image and reality, and the unavoidable tension between human instincts and societal expectation. By now, you're probably wondering, was this just an awkward public moment? Or does it hint at deeper dynamics between Harry and Meghan? That's exactly the question everyone is asking. And over the course of this video, we're going to unpack it. From backstage whispers to media frenzy, from body language analysis to insider insights, we'll explore everything that led to that unforgettable Sundance hug, or lack thereof. And here's the cliffhanger to leave you on edge. When Harry stepped away from Meghan, when he subtly recoiled from a hug in front of hundreds of cameras, no one realized that a series of behind-the-scenes incidents was already set in motion. Events that would not only make headlines but also reveal cracks in the couple's public image and challenge everything fans thought they knew. So, fasten your seatbelts, because what seems like a simple, fleeting moment on the red carpet is actually the beginning of a story packed with tension, intrigue, and revelations. A story that will take us deep into the world of royalty, celebrity, and the human side of fame. A story where even sweat stains can spark a media frenzy. And by the end of this journey, you'll never look at a red carpet hug or a royal public appearance the same way again. The red carpet at the Sundance Film Festival is supposed to be a place of glamour, lights, and celebration, a moment where dreams meet reality and the world watches in admiration. But for Prince Harry and Meghan Markle, their very first appearance at Sundance for the premiere of Cookie Queens quickly became something more complicated than just a showcase of their documentary. It was a moment of subtle tension, scrutinized to the nth degree, with every step, glance, and gesture analyzed by millions across the globe. As Harry and Meghan stepped out of their sleek black SUV, snow crunching beneath designer heels and polished shoes, a sudden hush seemed to sweep the crowd. Not a literal silence, of course. Photographers shouted, fans cheered, the cameras focused, waiting for the perfect shot. The flashbulbs ignited in staccato bursts, illuminating the couple in blinding light. And then it began. The first signs that this red carpet would be anything but ordinary. Harry's entrance was calm, almost methodical. He had mastered the art of controlled composure over the years, trained in public appearances where even the smallest misstep could become a headline. But this time, there was a hesitation in his step. A micro moment of pause, almost imperceptible unless you were looking closely. The cameras caught it. Harry's body angled slightly away from Meghan, his left shoulder pulling back in the faintest recoil. He was smiling, but it was a tight smile, one that didn't quite reach his eyes. A subtle tension ran through his posture, a silent signal that something was off. Meghan, ever poised, walked alongside him with a radiant smile, holding her clutch delicately in front of her. Her outfit, A cream-tailored ensemble with delicate silk detailing was immaculate, designed to balance elegance with comfort. But the intense festival lights revealed a tiny imperfection: faint sweat stains along the underarm and side panels. It was barely noticeable to the average observer, but to Harry, trained to read subtle cues and nonverbal communication, it registered immediately. The human brain notices what the eyes might try to ignore, and in that instant, something flickered across Harry's expression, a mixture of instinctive discomfort, protective caution, and a flash of embarrassment. It's tempting to laugh it off. Sweat stains are human. Everyone experiences them. Yet in the world of high-profile royals, where every gesture is symbolic, where each smile is documented, where the cameras never sleep, this micro-moment became a catalyst for a series of reactions that would ripple through the evening and beyond. Harry didn't recoil dramatically. He isn't the kind of person to make a scene. But there was a subtle step back, a fraction of a second too long before leaning in for the expected hug. The red carpet, usually a space for scripted smiles and coordinated gestures, suddenly felt unpredictable. The photographers noticed it immediately. You could see the anticipation in their movements, the way lenses swiveled, flashbulbs firing at angles to capture what might be a fleeting moment of drama. Social media users watching live streams and snippets would later dissect every frame: Harry's eyes, Meghan's smile, the almost imperceptible distance between them. Analysts and armchair experts debated endlessly. Was it tension between the couple? A subtle hint of a personal conflict? Or simply a human reaction to discomfort, stress, and exhaustion under blinding lights? Inside, the scene was electric. Festival staff whispered among themselves, wondering if the couple had arrived late to their own premiere, or if they were purposely pacing the red carpet to prolong the anticipation. Security personnel flanked the couple, maintaining a protective perimeter while subtly guiding them along the carpet. Reporters scribbled furiously in notebooks, already drafting hot takes. And yet, amidst the chaos, there was a rhythm, a delicate choreography of public relations, camera angles, and royal protocol. As they approached the media wall for official photos, Harry's subtle avoidance became even more pronounced. When the photographer gestured for a hug, a customary gesture of affection and unity, Harry froze for a split second. Meghan leaned slightly forward, her expression unchanged, smiling politely, but the movement was mismatched. The camera captured Harry's slight step back, an almost imperceptible twitch of his jaw, and a hand that hovered for just a moment before resting by his side. This tiny moment became the defining frame of the night. It was a contradiction of intention and instinct. Public expectation demanded affection. Cameras demanded perfection. But Harry's instinct responded to a subtle human cue: the sweat stains, the discomfort, the awareness of the spotlight. The result, a moment of tension captured in high definition for the world to interpret. What makes this scene even more fascinating is the contrast between public perception and private reality. To the casual observer, it could have been a minor misstep, a fleeting awkwardness. To those watching through the lens of royal protocol and human psychology, it was a story unfolding in real time. Every eye movement, every micro-expression, every slight angle of the body communicates volumes, especially under global scrutiny. And let's not forget Meghan's response. She maintained composure with the poise of someone accustomed to public appearances. But subtle signals betrayed a hint of discomfort, not in anger, but perhaps in the awareness of being judged, of being photographed, of being observed in a moment of human imperfection. Her smile, though practiced, faltered for just a fraction of a second, a blink of imperfection in a meticulously crafted public persona. As they continued down the red carpet, the audience began to murmur. Fans and onlookers noticed the tension, trying to reconcile it with the image of a harmonious, affectionate couple. Social media buzzed in real time. GIFs were clipped, threads were created, and speculation began to spiral. Was Harry upset? Was Meghan uncomfortable? Or was it something entirely different, something that only those in the room could fully understand? And here's where the story deepens. The red carpet, for all its glitter and glamour, became a stage for subtle storytelling. Every step, every gesture, every fleeting expression became a narrative waiting to be written. The sweat stains, trivial as they might seem, became a symbol, a humanizing imperfection in a world obsessed with perfection. And Harry's reaction, instinctive yet subtle, transformed a moment of celebration into a story of tension, perception, and emotional complexity. By the time the couple reached the media wall for official photographs, the microdrama had already done its work. The world had a new headline. The internet had a new meme, and insiders whispered, this was just the beginning. Backstage, the staff noticed a shift in energy, a tension in the air that hadn't existed moments earlier. Harry and Meghan were professionals, accustomed to public scrutiny, yet even they were subject to the unpredictable nature of human reaction under pressure. And as the flashbulbs continued to fire, as cameras captured every angle, the question lingered in the air. What would happen next? Could they navigate the rest of the evening without incident? Or was this red carpet appearance a prelude to a series of subtle conflicts and revelations that no one yet realized were unfolding? The tension was palpable. The red carpet, meant to celebrate their documentary and creative achievement, had inadvertently highlighted a human moment that the world would never forget. It was a reminder that even those who seem perfect, who smile for the cameras and walk with confidence under the harshest scrutiny, are subject to the same instincts, reactions, and vulnerabilities as the rest of us. And here's the cliffhanger that will carry us forward into the next chapter. Backstage, after the red carpet photos were taken, Harry and Meghan entered a world away from the cameras. The lights were softer, the crowd thinner, the scrutiny less immediate. But the tension didn't disappear. In fact, it intensified. What happened behind the velvet ropes would reveal not just the truth about that momentary hesitation, but also foreshadow a series of events that would leave fans, media, and insiders questioning everything they thought they knew about the couple. Sometimes, it's the smallest details that reveal the biggest truths. A glance, a twitch, a faint mark on clothing, tiny signals that can carry massive weight when millions are watching. For Prince Harry and Meghan Markle at Sundance, one such detail became the centerpiece of a moment that would define the evening: sweat stains. It wasn't something a casual observer would notice immediately. But Harry, attuned to nuance through years of scrutiny, saw it the instant the spotlight hit Meghan's cream ensemble. Subtle discoloration along the underarms and side seams, barely perceptible unless you were trained to observe human microsignals. Or, in Harry's case, someone who has spent decades in situations where every gesture, every imperfection is magnified. Human instinct is fascinating. In that split second, Harry's mind processed the signals: stress, exertion, and the pressure of the public eye, all written on the fabric of Meghan's clothing. It wasn't judgment, it was recognition. It was the primal human response to something unexpected, something that made physical contact slightly complicated. His step back, his hand hover, his brief pause before the customary hug were not dramatic gestures, but subtle, instinctive reactions. Meghan, of course, remained composed. Every detail of her appearance, from the tailored fit of her outfit to the delicate styling of her hair, was calculated to exude elegance. Yet the intense lights, the adrenaline, and the natural human reaction to being in a public space created a situation no amount of planning could completely mitigate. Sweat is human. Everyone experiences it. But when you're under the harshest scrutiny imaginable, it becomes an unintentional message, a visible indicator of vulnerability, and, in Harry's case, a signal to adjust instinctively. Backstage, the situation was even more complex. The PR team had rehearsed every possible interaction, anticipating smiles, waves, and poses. But sweat stains? That's an uncontrolled variable, an honest human signal that no amount of rehearsals could predict. And Harry's subtle response, while imperceptible to most, was a testament to the complexity of balancing instinct, public expectation, and personal comfort. Imagine this scenario in your own life for a moment. You're at an important event, perhaps a presentation, a wedding, or a high-stakes meeting. Someone approaches for a hug, handshake, or close interaction, and you notice something about them. Maybe they're nervous, maybe sweaty, maybe uncomfortable. Do you react instinctively, politely, awkwardly, or not at all? Now, magnify that reaction onto a stage viewed by millions of cameras and billions of eyes. That's the world Harry operates in. The cameras captured every nuance: the slight lean forward of Meghan's body, Harry's faint step back, the hover of his hand before it settled. These microsignals tell a story louder than any press release ever could. Fans dissected it frame by frame. Social media exploded with questions. Did Harry just avoid Meghan? What's happening between them? Why didn't they hug? Memes were born overnight, GIFs looped endlessly, and all it took was a subtle human detail: sweat. There's a lesson here about human perception. One tiny imperfection, one uncontrollable variable can dominate the narrative when the world is watching. And the irony, this moment, trivial in isolation, carried enormous significance precisely because of the couple's fame and the public's fascination. Sweat, a human necessity, transformed into a symbol, a narrative device, a lens through which millions analyzed intimacy, emotion, and social connection. But there's more beneath the surface. Harry's reaction, subtle as it was, also revealed an element of protective instinct. He's been through intense media scrutiny, criticism, and public speculation for over a decade. His awareness of Meghan's exposure, not just physically, but socially, triggered a cautious, instinctive response. It's fascinating. What looks like a minor hesitation is actually a blend of human instinct, emotional awareness, and a lifetime of navigating public perception. Meanwhile, Meghan's composure remained impressive. But if you look closer, you notice micro-expressions: a flash of self-consciousness, a subtle adjustment of her posture, a flicker of tension in her jaw. These are not overt signs of discomfort. They are fleeting, almost imperceptible signals that the human mind reads instinctively. And to Harry, standing inches away, they were impossible to ignore. The story doesn't stop at the red carpet. Backstage, these microsignals continued to ripple through the team. Assistants whispered, PR staff adjusted angles for interviews, and producers noted the subtle tension in the room. It was a delicate balance, celebrating the premiere while managing perception, ensuring the cameras captured smiles rather than discomfort. And for Harry and Meghan, every move required calculated attention to the fine line between authenticity and optics. Audience, consider this. How often do we ignore the human details in public interactions? How often do we assume perfection in appearances, missing the subtle signs of stress, discomfort, or instinctive reaction? Harry and Meghan's moment at Sundance is a masterclass in this phenomenon. One small signal, a sweat stain, a micro-expression, can shift the narrative dramatically, especially when millions of eyes are analyzing every pixel. Adding complexity, insiders noted that the evening schedule was packed. Pre-premiere rehearsals, last-minute interviews, and media obligations compounded stress. Sweat wasn't just about the physical exertion. It was a tangible indicator of human pressure, anticipation, and the weight of expectation. For Harry, this wasn't just about optics. It was about human empathy, instinctive reaction, and the management of complex social cues under extreme scrutiny. And here's the kicker: the public only saw the surface. They saw a tiny hesitation, a subtle step back, a minor avoidance of a hug. But behind the scenes, the dynamics were layered. Whispers from staff, subtle adjustments, and the silent choreography of handling human imperfection in a hyper-visible environment. Sweat, tension, instinct, and social expectation collided in a single unforgettable moment. Now imagine the social media storm. By the time the photos hit online platforms, the interpretations were endless. Some praised Harry's awareness, some criticized Meghan for showing vulnerability, and countless others debated endlessly. The narrative took on a life of its own, detached from the reality of instinctive human reaction. This is the paradox of fame. Small human details become global events. And here's the cliffhanger that propels us into Chapter 3. Backstage, away from the cameras, the tension didn't dissipate. It intensified. Whispered conversations and subtle gestures revealed an undercurrent of stress, anticipation, and perhaps even frustration. The sweat stains were just the beginning, a signal that would trigger a cascade of interactions, misunderstandings, and revelations that no one, not even the couple themselves, could fully anticipate. The red carpet was only the opening act. Once the flashing lights faded and the crowd's applause softened, Prince Harry and Meghan Markle stepped behind the velvet ropes into a world far less glamorous, far more intense, a world where every gesture mattered, every whisper could spiral into a headline, and every human reaction was magnified under the weight of expectation. This was backstage at Sundance, and if the red carpet was tense, backstage was a pressure cooker. As they walked through the dimly lit corridors, Harry and Meghan were no longer just a couple in the public eye. They were performers, diplomats, and symbols, all at once. Staff flanked them on either side, PR advisors, security personnel, production assistants, each one scanning, anticipating, managing. And yet, despite this orchestration, something felt different. There was a subtle edge in the air, a tension so palpable it could almost be tasted. The moment Harry hesitated on the red carpet over that tiny human imperfection, the sweat stain, was not lost backstage. Meghan caught the flicker of concern, but she didn't call attention to it. Instead, she adjusted her posture, straightened the folds of her silk blouse, and smiled. Calm on the surface, but inside, a storm of thoughts raced. She was acutely aware of being photographed moments earlier, aware of the whispers of fans, reporters, and even the security detail who had seen the micro-hesitation. Sweat was human, but in her world, human was a vulnerability on display. Insiders would later describe the backstage atmosphere as electric, almost theatrical. The production team was hustling, final interviews were being prepped, and Harry's mind was running a mental checklist: appearances, timing, interactions, and above all, public perception. The pause before the hug wasn't just about sweat. It was a ripple effect of every single pressure that weighed on him. Decades of media scrutiny, his own reputation as a protective husband, and the knowledge that millions of people were watching his every move. And then the first sign of conflict appeared. Not dramatic, not explosive, but subtle. A whispered conversation between Meghan and one of the festival coordinators. Something about timing. Something about where they would be photographed next. Meghan, ever precise and meticulous, offered a gentle correction to the schedule. Harry, meanwhile, scanned the environment, subtly repositioning his stance to maintain the appearance of calm. But beneath that veneer, there was tension, a recognition that every movement backstage could be scrutinized, dissected, and misinterpreted once it reached the press. The staff noticed it immediately. Production assistants exchanged glances. Security personnel adjusted positions. Even the PR team whispered among themselves, not about the documentary or the event itself, but about the unspoken tension between the couple. And yet, to the casual observer, nothing appeared wrong. Meghan smiled. Harry nodded. The choreography of royalty and celebrity continued seamlessly, but the microdynamics told a different story. At one point, Meghan leaned toward Harry to whisper something. A brief comment, a clarification. The cameras weren't there. The public couldn't see, but those in the room noticed. Harry's eyes narrowed, his jaw tightened slightly, and his hand brushed against the small of Meghan's back. A gesture of support, of reassurance, but also of recalibration. Backstage was a battlefield of human signals, unspoken communication, and instinctive reaction. Every minor gesture had meaning. Every minor imperfection was a potential headline. Now, consider the emotional stakes. Meghan was experiencing a dual pressure: the physical presence of scrutiny on the red carpet and the backstage reality of constant observation and expectation. Sweat, nerves, adrenaline, all perfectly normal human reactions, became symbols of imperfection in a world that demands flawless execution. Harry's subtle avoidance of the hug was not judgment. It was instinctive, a combination of empathy, protection, and acute awareness of perception. And Meghan, ever aware, responded in kind, maintaining composure while managing inner frustration and anxiety. Meanwhile, the documentary team hustled to prepare for interviews and the premiere screening. Cameras were being positioned, sound checks were ongoing, the couple's paths were carefully orchestrated to appear seamless to the audience. But backstage, the small fissures were widening. Slight disagreements over timing, last-minute wardrobe adjustments, whispered advice from publicists, all compounding the stress of the moment. One insider would later describe the scene as controlled chaos wrapped in tension. And the human element is crucial here. Behind the polished exterior, both Harry and Meghan were navigating a web of competing priorities: their own nerves, public expectation, media scrutiny, and the desire to maintain a unified front. Small signals, glances, gestures, pauses became loaded with meaning. A subtle step to the left could indicate discomfort. A hand brushing against the other's back could signal reassurance or tension. The backstage drama was a language in itself, unspoken yet understood by everyone present. As they prepared for the premiere, another layer of stress emerged. The audience itself, festival goers, critics, and fellow celebrities were already observing, already forming opinions, already reading signals. Harry and Meghan had to manage their internal responses while projecting confidence and composure. And it's here that the sweat stain incident becomes more than a physical detail. It's a symbol of the human imperfections that play out on a global stage. And then the moment of true backstage tension occurred. A technical issue, minor, easily solvable, delayed an interview by several minutes. Meghan, ever the professional, attempted to smooth over the delay, speaking quietly to a production assistant. Harry, observing the ripple effect, stepped in with a suggestion which was received with polite acknowledgement but subtle pushback. The micro-conflict, almost invisible to outsiders, was a dance of personalities, instinctive reactions, and unspoken expectations. All of this, the sweat, the hesitation, the minor disagreements, was compounded by the weight of history. Harry has lived under the microscope for decades. Meghan, too, has experienced the relentless judgment of both press and public. Their instincts are heightened, their reactions amplified, their micro-signals magnified. Backstage drama, for them, isn't just a fleeting occurrence. It's a lens through which every interaction is measured, analyzed, and interpreted. And here's the twist. While the public focuses on the red carpet and the apparent refusal to hug, the backstage reality is far more nuanced. Every reaction is layered, every movement intentional, every pause meaningful. The sweat stain was the spark, but the backstage environment, the choreography, the human responses, the whispers, the stress was the tinderbox that allowed the tension to flare. By now, the audience is asking themselves, was this a minor moment blown out of proportion, or was it an authentic glimpse into the realities of human behavior under extreme pressure? The answer is both. It's human instinct amplified by fame, vulnerability, and the unrelenting gaze of the public eye. And here's the cliffhanger that leads into Chapter 4, the media frenzy. Because as Harry and Meghan navigated the backstage chaos, cameras were already capturing snippets of red carpet footage, ready to circulate online. Social media was waiting, fans were speculating, and reporters were crafting narratives. The sweat stains, the hesitation, and the micro-expressions were about to explode into a story that no one backstage could fully control. By the time Harry and Meghan had stepped away from the backstage corridors and into the screening area for Cookie Queens, the red carpet footage was already circulating online. And in the modern age, a single moment, one slight hesitation, one subtle micro-expression can ripple across continents in seconds. The world was watching. Social media accounts were abuzz. Hashtags were trending. Fans, critics, and casual viewers alike dissected every frame, every glance, every pause. The frenzy began quietly, almost innocuously. A photo of Harry stepping back slightly from Meghan, seemingly avoiding the hug, was posted by a prominent paparazzi account. In less than 5 minutes, it had thousands of likes, shares, and comments. Some viewers expressed concern, others disbelief, and a few outright outrage. What's going on between them, people asked. Is this real tension or just a staged moment? GIFs cropped up within moments, looping the hesitation, the hand hover, and the imperceptible distance between them. Media outlets pounced. Entertainment websites and tabloids immediately published articles speculating about the moment. Headlines ranged from the curious, "Did Harry just snub Meghan?" to the dramatic, "Royal tension at Sundance. A hug denied." Analysts dissected the moment, offering expert commentary on body language, micro-expressions, and even wardrobe choices. The sweat stains that Harry noticed were largely ignored in headlines, but their influence on his micro-behavior became a talking point for those analyzing human instinct and reaction. Fans were split. Some defended Harry's reaction, calling it human and relatable. Who hasn't flinched or hesitated because of sweat or discomfort? Others criticized Meghan, claiming that public figures should be perfect, regardless of natural human behavior. And somewhere in the middle, a large segment of viewers simply watched in fascination, curious to see what would happen next. The frenzy extended beyond social media posts. Television networks picked up the footage, featuring slow-motion replays of the moment. Commentators debated over who was at fault or what the hesitation really meant. Body language experts were brought in to provide detailed analysis. Some claimed Harry was embarrassed, others said he was protective or empathetic. The interpretations were endless, and each one fueled more conversation, more posts, more speculation. Meanwhile, bloggers and fan accounts exploded with theories. Some claimed the couple was arguing before the red carpet. Others suggested it was stress from the festival schedule. One viral thread speculated about the sweat stains, calling them the spark that ignited the royal microdrama. Memes proliferated, exaggerated depictions of Harry tiptoeing around Meghan, gifs looping the slight step back, and even playful captions imagining what the two might have been thinking. But here's the fascinating part. None of it was fully accurate. What the media frenzy captured was only the surface. A single moment in a complex series of human interactions. Sweat, tension, instinct, and the pressures of being constantly observed collided in ways the world could only guess at. Yet, the public narrative had already taken on a life of its own. Public reaction didn't stop at online commentary. Influencers, talk show hosts, and entertainment podcasts began analyzing the Sundance hug incident in real time. Each provided their own interpretation, often dramatizing subtle details into full-blown storylines. The analysis included body language experts, breaking down the microstep, hand hover, and facial tension, speculating about internal emotional states. Fashion commentators, critiquing Meghan's outfit, the placement of her clutch, and how the sweat stains may have contributed to discomfort. Royal analysts, examining the historical context of public interactions between royal couples, noting that even subtle gestures are magnified under scrutiny. Psychologists and relationship coaches, offering insights into instinctive human responses and how minor imperfections can influence social interactions. Every frame of the red carpet moment was scrutinized. Every tiny detail became evidence in a narrative that spread faster than any official statement could manage. And the irony? The actual moment, Harry's instinctive response to a human, natural signal, was completely overshadowed by the interpretation. Reality had been overtaken by perception, and the frenzy fed itself, growing larger with each click, share, and headline. The couple's team was already responding behind the scenes. PR staff and security advisors were monitoring the media response in real time, assessing which narratives could be countered and which had already gained traction too far to manage. Social media posts were flagged, fan accounts tracked, and journalists contacted. Yet the frenzy couldn't be entirely contained. Once the world notices a story like this, it takes on a life of its own. At the festival itself, the media frenzy began to influence the atmosphere. Reporters approached with more pointed questions, fans stared longer, and other celebrities whispered among themselves, curious about the tension everyone had noticed. Harry and Meghan maintained composure, smiling, nodding, and appearing unified. But the microdrama from the red carpet continued to cast a shadow, influencing interactions throughout the evening. One insider later revealed that Harry was acutely aware of the media frenzy as it unfolded. He understood the implications of even a slight misstep. Each subtle reaction, each micro-expression, was now being broadcast, analyzed, and debated. Meghan, for her part, continued to smile gracefully, but even her composed demeanor was subtly affected by the awareness that their moment had sparked widespread speculation. The media frenzy didn't just stop at interpretation, it became part of the story itself. Clips were shared on TikTok, Instagram Reels went viral, and YouTube videos dissected the moment frame by frame. Audience engagement skyrocketed as people debated endlessly, replaying the footage, guessing intentions, and questioning authenticity. The frenzy was a perfect example of how modern media transforms the smallest human interactions into cultural events. creating narratives that often diverge entirely from the reality of the moment. And yet, amidst all the speculation, there was truth behind the microdrama. Harry's instinctive reaction, Meghan's graceful composure, the sweat stains, the subtle hesitations, they were human, relatable, and authentic. What the media frenzy captured was a distorted reflection of reality, a moment amplified, reinterpreted, and sensationalized for public consumption. But the human truth remained intact: instinct, perception, and the unavoidable complexity of being observed at the highest level. By the end of the evening, the media frenzy had reached global proportions. Headlines had been published, GIFs had gone viral, and social media discussions were ongoing. And yet, for those who had witnessed the backstage moments, there was a deeper layer, a story untold, a complexity invisible in the snapshots circulating online. Sweat, instinct, tension, and human imperfection were the real catalysts of the moment, far beyond the headlines or memes. And here's the cliffhanger for Chapter 5. While the world fixated on media interpretations, the documentary itself, Cookie Queens, was about to premiere. Inside the theater, the audience would witness something else entirely: subtle behaviors, interactions, and glances that would reveal even more about the dynamics between Harry and Meghan. The red carpet moment was only the beginning, a prologue to a story that was about to unfold in full color, behind the screen, and beyond the flashing cameras. The red carpet drama was only the overture. Now came the main event, the premiere of Cookie Queens. Unlike the fleeting, chaotic moments outside, the theater offered a stage where narrative, emotion, and story collided, where every glance, every gesture, and every word would be magnified not by paparazzi flashes, but by the collective attention of a room full of critics, fans, and industry insiders. The documentary itself was positioned as a celebration of empowerment, creativity, and the human spirit. A narrative of innovation, baking brilliance, and resilience, Cookie Queens promised warmth, humor, and inspiration. Yet for Harry and Meghan, it was more than a film. It was a public statement. It was a carefully curated attempt to tell their story on their own terms. And it was being watched by a crowd already buzzing about their red carpet microdrama. The couple entered the theater with the same meticulous precision that characterized their public lives. Harry, wearing a tailored navy suit, exuded calm authority, though his micro-expressions betrayed a constant monitoring of the room. Meghan, radiant in a sophisticated gown, projected warmth and confidence. But there was a tension beneath the surface, a subtle undercurrent that only the keen observer could detect. Every movement was under scrutiny. Every glance could be interpreted. As the lights dimmed and the opening credits rolled, there was a moment of collective attention. The audience, having followed the red carpet frenzy online, watched the couple closely, scanning for reactions, subtle gestures, and micro-expressions. Here, in this controlled environment, the stakes felt different. There were no flashing bulbs, no shouting photographers, but the eyes of the world were present, in a sense, through the anticipation and expectation of those sitting in the theater. For Harry and Meghan, the premiere was both performance and test. How would they appear in a setting that demanded authenticity, poise, and engagement? How would they navigate human imperfection under a microscope of attentive fans, critics, and insiders? The documentary provided both an opportunity and a challenge. It allowed them to shape narrative while simultaneously revealing subtle truths about their dynamics as a couple. As the first segment of Cookie Queens unfolded, showcasing stories of innovation and resilience among bakers and entrepreneurs, Harry and Meghan engaged with the audience in subtle ways. Harry's hand occasionally rested lightly on Meghan's back, a quiet reassurance in the midst of scrutiny. Meghan's eyes tracked reactions in the room, offering smiles that were precise yet human, sometimes revealing tension, sometimes warmth. The contrast between the stories on screen, vivid, empowering, heartfelt, and the microdrama unfolding in the theater itself, created an ironic tension that few outside observers could immediately recognize. Observers later noted that while the documentary celebrated triumph, the couple's real-time reactions to the screening offered insights into their personal dynamics. Harry, accustomed to public life and media management, displayed subtle attentiveness, a slight lean toward Meghan when a particularly emotional scene played, a brief glance scanning her expression for discomfort or approval. Meghan, conversely, oscillated between composure and subtle human cues, fidgeting slightly when scenes mirrored her own experiences of scrutiny, smoothing her gown when a camera angle caught her, adjusting her posture in ways that indicated both awareness and poise. In essence, the documentary screening became a mirror, reflecting not only the narratives on screen, but also the interpersonal tension, instinctive reactions, and nuanced human behaviors of the couple in real time. For the audience, this dual-layered experience created an unprecedented level of intrigue. It was a performance and a revelation simultaneously, a curated narrative and a candid observation. And yet, the irony was palpable. While Cookie Queen celebrated empowerment and resilience in its subjects, the couple themselves were navigating a landscape of pressure, scrutiny, and instinctive human responses. Sweat stains, subtle hesitation, micro-expressions, all minor details outside, continued to resonate within the theater, amplified by attention, expectation, and the very act of observation. The juxtaposition between narrative on-screen and behavior off-screen created an almost cinematic tension that was invisible to casual viewers, but unmistakable to those attuned to human microdynamics. The emotional spikes were subtle but significant. When a particularly humorous baking mishap appeared on screen, Harry's laugh was slightly delayed, a micro-response possibly influenced by his awareness of Meghan, the audience, and the lingering red carpet incident. Meghan's smile, in contrast, was warm but contained a flicker of self-consciousness, a momentary acknowledgement of her human vulnerability. Together, these moments revealed a complex interplay: instinct, awareness, and presentation, coexisting under pressure. Critics later noted that these subtle behaviors added layers of depth to the premiere experience. What seemed like minor reactions were in fact signals of authenticity and adaptation under scrutiny. The sweat stain incident, which had dominated online discussions, continued to influence perception, not just on the red carpet, but within the controlled environment of the theater. Observers interpreted every adjustment, glance, and gesture as part of a narrative that was unfolding in real time, amplifying the media frenzy and deepening audience engagement. Adding to the complexity, the couple was also navigating social dynamics with fellow attendees. Other celebrities, festival organizers, and industry insiders observed the subtle interactions. Whispered conversations, slight nods, and micro-expressions created a network of signals that informed perception. Harry and Meghan, aware of this, maintained controlled composure while managing instinctive reactions. Small steps, subtle touches, and occasional glances became a language of human behavior, rich with unspoken meaning. This dual-layered environment, the documentary narrative on screen and the couple's backstage microdynamics in real time, created an unprecedented storytelling experience. The audience was witnessing not only a tale of baking brilliance and resilience, but also an intricate dance of human instinct, social pressure, and interpersonal dynamics. The premiere thus served as both a celebration of creativity and a stage for subtle tension, amplified by the presence of the world's attention. And here's the cliffhanger. Just as the final moments of Cookie Queens played, Harry and Meghan's interactions, micro-expressions, gestures, and pauses, hinted at an undercurrent of emotion that no one outside the room could yet fully interpret. The public narrative focused on the red carpet moment, but the theater revealed another layer, a silent story of instinct, human imperfection, and relational nuance that would later feed into media analysis, social commentary, and global discussion. The documentary, intended as a celebration, became a catalyst for deeper understanding, subtle tension, and human connection. Sweat stains had sparked one moment. The theater amplified the ripple effect, revealing a complexity that would only intensify as the evening and subsequent media coverage progressed. When it comes to reading tension, gestures often speak louder than words. And for Prince Harry and Meghan Markle at Sundance, every shift in posture, every glance, and every micro-movement told a story that no official statement could capture. The red carpet hesitation, the backstage whispers, and the theater interactions were only the surface. To understand the full narrative, one must analyze the body language, the subtle cues that communicate instinct, emotion, and relationship dynamics in real time. Consider Harry's stance on the red carpet. He often angled slightly away from Meghan, not out of disdain but instinctive awareness. His shoulder would tilt, a slight lean indicating protective caution rather than coldness. Hands hovered in moments of pause, not for show, but as a natural response to microstress. Each shift, though nearly imperceptible to the untrained eye, conveyed a precise emotional message: awareness, instinct, and subtle concern. Meghan's body language, in contrast, was a dance of poise and human vulnerability. Her smile remained polished, eyes engaged with the audience, but her hands occasionally adjusted her gown, or clutch, a small subconscious attempt to regain composure. Micro-fidgets like this are classic indicators of subtle stress or awareness of being observed. Combined with Harry's cautious positioning, the couple's interactions created a complex visual story of instinctive human reaction under intense public scrutiny. Experts later analyzed these moments frame by frame. They noted that Harry's micro-recoil, his slight step back from Meghan before the customary hug, was consistent with a physiological response to perceived discomfort. Sweat stains, while trivial, served as a visual cue triggering instinctive personal space awareness. Meghan's controlled, yet slightly tensed posture indicated she was cognizant of being watched, aware of the pressure to maintain a flawless public image. Together, these subtle behaviors created a layered tableau of human interaction: instinct versus expectation, authenticity versus performance. Inside the theater for Cookie Queens, these dynamics continued. Harry's glances toward Meghan weren't merely affectionate. They were evaluative, measuring her reactions to both the audience and the content on screen. Meghan's posture mirrored this dual awareness. She maintained an outwardly composed facade while subconsciously responding to her husband's subtle cues. Each micro-expression, a blink, a smile, a subtle shift in stance, was a data point in the silent conversation between them. Consider the lighting in the theater, which subtly highlighted facial features. Under such illumination, small micro-signals were amplified. Harry's brief tightening of the jaw, a merely imperceptible furrow of the brow, or a slight narrowing of the eyes were immediately noticeable to trained observers. Meghan's occasional head tilt, subtle adjustments to her sitting position, and delicate hand movements all added layers to the interpretation of the moment. It was body language at its most informative, a silent language that revealed context, intention, and emotional nuance. Even the audience picked up on these cues. Observers described feeling an electric tension in the room, a mix of curiosity, fascination, and emotional empathy. Fans whispered, critics noted nuances, and industry insiders recorded observations that would later feed into articles and social media discussions. The body language didn't just reveal interpersonal tension, it guided public perception, influencing the narrative as much as the documentary itself. Humor and irony also played roles in the couple's nonverbal communication. Harry's occasional small smirk during lighthearted moments on screen signaled his attempt to connect without drawing overt attention. Meghan's slight shoulder shifts and controlled eye contact conveyed attentiveness and engagement, while subtly masking stress. Observers noted that these behaviors created a visual tension, moments of warmth punctuated by micro-cues of caution that enriched the story unfolding in real time. Now, let's break down some of the key micro-signals. Step-back gestures. A slight movement away signals a need for personal space. Harry's step-back wasn't judgmental. It was instinctive, protective, and contextually human. Hand positioning. Hands hovering or resting carefully communicates readiness, composure, or subtle tension. Harry's hands reflected awareness of both Meghan's proximity and audience scrutiny. Micro-fidgets, Meghan's slight adjustments to her gown or clutch, indicated a conscious management of appearance and composure under stress. Facial micro-expressions, blinks, jaw tension, eyebrow movement, all subtle indicators of thought, stress, or instinctive reaction. Orientation and posture, angles of the body, lean, and stance communicate engagement, comfort, and relational dynamics. Layered together, these nonverbal cues formed a narrative that both confirmed and contradicted public expectations. The world saw an affectionate, polished royal couple. Yet those trained to observe, the photographers, analysts, and insiders, recognized an intricate dance of human instinct, subtle tension, and interpersonal communication. But body language is only part of the story. Context matters. The sweat stains on Meghan's outfit, combined with the high-pressure environment of the premiere, amplified subtle signals. Harry's instinctive response was a micro-behavior rooted in empathy and protective awareness. Meghan's composed reactions were a combination of social poise, instinctive self-regulation, and subtle acknowledgement of the situation's emotional gravity. Together, these behaviors told a story richer than any headline. Audience engagement is critical in such moments. Social media users dissected these microsignals with a fascination bordering on obsession. Every frame became a discussion point. Why did he step back? Is her hand adjustment nervous or calculated? Does his glance indicate concern or judgment? The public's interpretation often misaligned with the human reality, but it underscored the powerful impact of nonverbal communication on perception. The irony cannot be overstated. The documentary, celebrating creativity and resilience, contrasted sharply with the microdrama of body language playing out before and during the premiere. Sweat stains had sparked a chain reaction that manifested not only in public speculation, but also in subtle, unspoken communication between Harry and Meghan. The human story beneath the glamour became as compelling as the film itself. And here's the cliffhanger for Chapter 7. The public was already reacting online, dissecting frames, gifs, and clips of the red carpet and theater moments. But the fans weren't the only ones paying attention. Critics, insiders, and even distant relatives were observing, analyzing, and quietly forming judgments that would later influence narratives about the couple, their documentary, and their public image. The body language was a story, but how it would be interpreted by the world was about to explode into an even larger frenzy. The red carpet was over. The backstage drama had quietly unfolded. The premiere of Cookie Queens had left its subtle imprint on the audience. Yet the story of Harry and Meghan wasn't confined to Utah. In the digital age, a single micro moment can travel across the globe in seconds. And this moment, the subtle step back, the faint hesitation before the hug, the sweat stains, became the catalyst for one of the fastest, most intense waves of public reaction the couple had ever experienced. The first sparks ignited on Twitter. Fans who had followed the live stream from the red carpet posted screenshots, looping GIFs, and short video clips. Hashtags quickly began to trend. #Sundance Hug, #Royal Drama, #Cookie Queens Premiere. Within minutes, the post capturing Harry's micro step and Meghan's polished yet slightly tense posture had been retweeted thousands of times. The commentary varied. Some fans expressed concern, some curiosity, and in the chaos, a pattern emerged. Human imperfections under scrutiny were magnified into headlines, memes, and viral moments. YouTube reaction videos followed almost immediately. Analysts and fans dissected frame by frame, highlighting Harry's slight step back, the hover of his hand, Meghan's subtle fidgeting, and her poised but slightly tensed smile. The videos ranged from serious body language breakdowns to comedic interpretations. One influencer even compared Harry's cautious step to tiptoeing through a snowstorm without leaving footprints, generating both humor and engagement. Every interpretation fed into the frenzy, reinforcing the narrative of tension while also entertaining millions worldwide. Meanwhile, traditional media outlets were already producing coverage. Entertainment websites, tabloid newspapers, and late-night talk shows ran stories and segments analyzing the moment. Headlines oscillated between neutral curiosity and sensational dramatization. Did Harry just snub Meghan at Sundance? Royal red carpet tension exposed. Sweat stains spark royal microdrama. Expert commentators, body language analysts, psychologists, and social media specialists offered their interpretations. One expert noted, in high-pressure social situations, micro-expressions can reveal stress, concern, or instinctive reaction. Harry's slight pause and Meghan's subtle adjustments are textbook indicators of awareness and relational navigation under observation. Fans were particularly divided. Some praised Harry for being human, relatable, and instinctively protective. Who hasn't stepped back when someone's sweating or uncomfortable? One fan tweeted. Others criticized Meghan, suggesting that public figures must maintain flawless appearances. She should have handled herself better. This is what being in the public eye demands, another post read. And then there were the observers in the middle, fascinated by the psychology of the situation, debating endlessly over intention versus perception, instinct versus performance. Instagram and TikTok contributed to the viral cycle. Short clips with dramatic music, slow-motion replays, and humorous captions spread rapidly. The GIFs of Harry's step back looped endlessly, paired with everything from playful commentary to satirical memes. Fans even created side-by-side comparisons of Harry and Meghan's body language from previous events, attempting to contextualize the moment within their larger public appearances. The phenomenon wasn't just about a hug, it was about interpretation, speculation, amplified by social media. And here's where the complexity deepens. The media frenzy wasn't confined to digital platforms. Print journalists, bloggers, and even late-night hosts joined the conversation. Analysts discussed not just the red carpet, but the subtle microdynamics in the theater, the tension backstage, and the implications for the couple's public image. Some framed it as a reflection of authenticity, a rare glimpse of raw human behavior under pressure. Others saw it as a sign of relational tension, feeding long-standing narratives about the challenges the couple faces under constant scrutiny. Critics weren't just analyzing the moment, they were also contextualizing it within the broader public narrative. Harry and Meghan's public image has always balanced between polished royalty and modern relatability. This micro-moment, amplified through media frenzy, reinforced that duality. For some, it humanized the couple, reminding the world that they are people with instincts, reactions, and vulnerabilities. For others, it was a misstep in an ongoing narrative of perfection and expectation. Fan forums and Reddit threads became hotbeds of speculation. Users dissected every angle, debating intentions, emotions, and context. Some argued that the moment symbolized stress from the festival schedule. Others insisted it revealed underlying tension in the couple's relationship. A recurring theme emerged. Micro-moments are magnified in the digital age, and the public's perception often diverges sharply from the private reality. Humor and irony also colored reactions. Memes circulated depicting Harry tiptoeing around Meghan. GIFs exaggerated the step back, and jokes about sweat stains became widespread. Some creators even humorously linked the incident to Cookie Queens itself, joking that the stress of baking, or performing, was contagious. These humorous interpretations, while lighthearted, reinforced engagement, drawing more eyes to the event and fueling discussion. Yet, amidst the humor and analysis, some observers sensed something deeper. Insiders hinted that the public moment, the step back, the hesitation, was just the surface of ongoing microdynamics between the couple. Body language cues, subtle expressions, and instinctive reactions backstage hinted at relational navigation, mutual awareness, and the constant balance between public perception and private authenticity. Sweat stains had triggered one micro-behavior, but the layers beneath it extended far beyond what the public could immediately see. And here's the kicker. The media frenzy began to feed on itself. Each new post, analysis, or meme reinforced the perception of tension. Audiences interpreted frames, GIFs, and commentary as evidence of a narrative, while Harry and Meghan continued to navigate the theater and subsequent post-premiere events in real time. The loop of observation, interpretation, and speculation created a cycle that was almost impossible to control. By the end of the night, the social media reaction had reached a global scale. News outlets in multiple countries reported on the red carpet moment, the microdrama, and even the theater interactions. Fans continued to debate endlessly online. Was Harry instinctively protecting Meghan? Was she aware of the subtle gestures? Was it a human moment, or a sign of deeper tension? The questions multiplied faster than any official statement could answer. And here's the cliffhanger. While fans and critics consumed and analyzed the moment obsessively, insiders hinted that the couple's post-premiere interactions, private moments away from cameras, would reveal even more nuanced truths about their dynamics, tensions, and instincts. The public